Hello, everybody. I'm going to answer some questions that I get asked quite often regarding the Habitat for Humanity process. For those of you who are interested in applying for a Habitat for Humanity home, or maybe you just want some information and want to know what the requirements are, what I would suggest that you do is just Google your local Habitat for Humanity association. And you would do that by simply going to your Google search. And then, just for instance, just as an example, you would just go to Google search and just Google Habitat for Humanity of Sacramento, California, or Habitat for Humanity of Broward County. That's in Miami, just as an example. Okay, so once you're on the website, what you're going to do is you're going to search for where it says home ownership program. Click on the home ownership program, and on there it's going to give you all of the requirements, all the documentations that need to be turned in, the amount of volunteer hours that may need to be completed, the length of time that you need to be on your job, things that they look for that's on the credit, and all of that kind of stuff. So each city and state, all counties are probably very different. So home ownership program, look for the requirements, all the income restrictions will be on there as well. Okay, so then once you finally have gone to the website, you have searched for the home ownership program information, you now have reviewed the requirements, you're going to look to see if you kind of fit in that, if you kind of pre-qualify. You can kind of check yourself to see if you go through a pre-qualification phase with the counselors, but you can kind of look at all of the requirements and kind of figure it out on your own if you feel like you pre-qualify. If you see that you kind of meet pretty much all of the requirements, or maybe you kind of like not so sure about something, I would just suggest that you print or download and print off the intake packet or the application and submit your application with a whatever the money order is, which is usually for the it's usually not an application fee, but it's usually a money order that you would have to submit with your intake packet along with all your documents to go towards your them pulling your credit report. Okay, so not all Habitat for Humanity associations are accepting applications. There are some associations, depending on where you are, that will say on their website when you go to it, it may say something like currently not accepting applications, or sign up to be notified when we are accepting applications. So usually when certain Habitat associations are not accepting applications at that time, they will have that on the link, or I'm sorry, on their website, that will let you know that they're not accepting applications, and to basically, put in your address or your email address for you to be notified when they are. So if you ever get to your association's website for Habitat for Humanity and you see that they're not currently accepting applications, just go ahead and put in your email. You just never know. A lot of times it doesn't say how long it's been closed. It may not say when they're accepting applications, but you just never know. Just sign up, put in your email, sign up for the notifications, and just go from there, and just, wait for the notification and apply when it's that time. Okay, so fast forward, y'all, excuse the noise. I've been outside. My son is running, my little boy is running around in the neighborhood with his big brother and his friends. So fast forward, you have already went to the website. You have already looked at the homeownership program. You have reviewed the requirements and the required documentations that are needed to submit your intake application. You have your money order ready for them to do your credit report check, and you submit the information. Okay, you usually drop it off, or you can mail it off. I would suggest just going in person and dropping off the intake application with all of the documents. That way, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have some kind of questions, so you can just ask those questions while you're there. Okay, so fast forward, you have already submitted all your information, turned in all the required documents. Now you're just going to wait for an intake interview. So that's usually going to come in a form of a letter or maybe a phone call. Okay, so now finally you got your letter in the mail, you got your phone call telling you when to come in for your intake interview. When you go in, thank you, baby, thank you. So usually when you go in for that intake interview, it's going to consist of everything that you submitted. So you'll sit in front of your counselor. He or she will have your application that you filled out. They will have all of your documents that you turned in, which would be like your pay stubs, your bank statements, your taxes from the last 2 or 3 years, whatever. All the documents that you are required to submit with your intake application will be all pretty much laid out on the table, including at that point your credit report. Okay. So usually at that point, if you're there and you made it to that interview and everything checked out, you're going to know before you leave that day. If there's any other documentation that's missing that needs to be turned in, your job is going to be to gather all that information as quick as you can, because you're pretty much kind of like on a time crunch. You have other families that are going to possibly be out there trying to apply for your same house or for your same lot. Okay, so you have turned in everything. You don't have nothing else to turn in. You have successfully submitted all documentations. Now that chapter in the application process is now over. What is going to happen next is everything you turned in is going to be taken before a selection committee. Usually when selection committee meets up, that's when they're going to pretty much get together, and if there's more than one family that applied for a home, they are going to come together and they're going to make a decision. They're going to make a life-changing decision as to which family they felt was in the most need for that home. Thankfully, I was in a situation where when I applied for my lot, there was no, my home didn't have an address yet. It was just lot 1, lot 2, lot 3. I'm in lot 2. So at the time when I applied, no one else had applied for my lot. So I was the only person that applied for my lot. So the time when selection committee met up for me, I wasn't up against anybody else. I wasn't having to kind of go up against another family. It was just me. So thankfully, I didn't have to deal with that. Okay, and then usually once you're selected, you will typically get a letter or a phone call. Usually about a week or two later. I actually got a call the day after. So selection committee met up for me on August the 23rd, but I got a call August the 24th that I was approved. Okay, so once you're selected, if you're selected, typically, I'm not sure, like a week later, I went in to fill out some paperwork. There's a bunch of paperwork that you need to fill out. And then there is, that gives you the time to, now this is just how it worked for me here. So I'm not sure how all habitat associations across the U.S. do it. But when I got approved, a week after I got the call that I was approved, I went in to give my $500 of my $2,000 closing, because that's what was required for us to give up front. It's a $2,000 closing. Once we get approved, you have to be prepared to give them $500 of that $1,500 up front. So during that meeting, a week after I got my approval call, I took the $500 money order, I filled out a bunch of paperwork, and I was able to select my flooring. So at the time I had 3 different choices of vinyl flooring and 3 different colors of carpet. I chose, and some of you may have seen in my walkthrough of my video before I moved in my home, I chose gray carpet in the bedrooms, and I chose like a lighter brownish color vinyl throughout the rest of the house. So you choose your flooring and things like that. The cabinets and countertops are pretty much standard for all of our homes here. All of the homes here that they're building now have pretty much the same countertops and the same cabinets. So then from there, you just move on to doing your volunteer hours. And you just take off from there. So you can have friends and family come and help you. I know with the 300 hours that I had to complete, 150 of those hours I had to do on a construction site or in our warehouse. And that counted for like 6.5 hours for each time I volunteered. So the other 150 I could bring in friends and family, as long as they were 16 and older. So I will do another video on how I hustled those hours. So I hope that this helped a lot of you. I hope I answered a lot of your questions. I will be back to do more videos, and I wish you guys the best of luck. You know how to reach me. Comment, hit me up in my inbox. I am here to help and guide you all. And God bless you. God bless you.